He loves to watch basketball and strolls around the city using his scooter. Gabe is a 5th grader but doesn't like girls. He even stares at them with disgust. At his school, he believes in a rumor that when a girl touches a boy, he will be infected with the girl's cooties. Bad things are also bound to happen after that, which Gabe himself witnessed back in 2nd grade. While little boys were playing, random girls from their class touched them. Fear of being infected with cooties, the boys screamed and ran as fast as they could. Later in class, they vomited on the hair of the girls who touched them. It was so humiliating because everyone in the room laughed at them. Years pass, but Gabe still loves to roam around the city, riding his scooter. Gabe also enjoys playing outside. It is the only way to escape the sadness he feels seeing his divorced parents, Adam and Leslie. They are still living together, but his father sleeps on the couch. They also split bills, and all their food and drinks in the refrigerator have their names on the label. Home became a much worse living environment when his mom started dating a guy again, Ronnie. Because of that, Gabe believes the phrase that goes love ends. Now that he's in 5th grade, Gabe couldn't believe he'd fallen in love with an 11-year-old girl, Rosemary. Gabe had already met Rosemary since kindergarten. They are playmates, but Gabe had no romantic feelings for her back then. The metal wall that separates the females and the males in the classroom was also a reason why they had no deep relationship. At a young age, Gabe can say that he lives in a world of men. Gabe used to be so happy and furious before he met Rosemary. He loves music and was part of the school band. Gabe also loves sports and plays basketball with his friends. Apart from that, his adventurous side can be reflected in the video games he plays at home. In his spare time, his dad also trains him for rugby. His dad believes that sports teach Gabe to focus on a goal and work hard to achieve it. One day after rugby training, Gabe told his dad his intention to join karate class. After knowing that it's not that costly, Adam also permitted his son to improve his flexibility. The next day, Gabe had already signed up for karate class. Wearing his white robe for the sport, Gabe eagerly listens to his coach. Gabe doesn't know anyone there, not until a familiar face showed up. The girl apologized to the coach because she was late. She is Rosemary Telesco, Gabe's childhood friend and schoolmate. Gabe greeted Rosemary with a smile. Finally, he has someone he knows in the class. Days pass and Gabe looks motivated to learn karate. One day, karate skills will now be put into practice through sparring. The coach requested everyone to pair up. At that moment, Gabe felt nervous because he expected no one to choose him. Gabe scanned his eyes around the room and pitied himself. Everyone had already found a pair except him. A few seconds after, Gabe remembered Rosemary. She is the only kid he knows in class. Gabe looked around and saw Rosemary also staring at her. She was also searching for a partner. Shy Gabe approached Rosemary if she wanted them to pair up. Rosemary smiled and nodded her head, saying yes. According to Gabe, Rosemary is only the 3rd prettiest girl in school, but she is undeniably the best in karate. Even if they are sparring partners, Gabe and Rosemary are only friends in karate class. They don't even greet each other at school. Extremely opposite when they wear those white robes, where they set aside all their differences and fight like equals. Gabe admits that he sucks in karate. Meanwhile, his sparring partner Rosemary is the first kid in the class to earn a yellow belt. She offered to help Gabe improve his karate by practicing with her later that day. But before that, Rosemary requested Gabe if he could accompany her to choose a flower girl dress for the wedding. Gabe hates shopping because of his mom. Leslie, his mother, always says it'll just take a few minutes, but it takes more than an hour to choose what she likes. Regardless, Gabe still agreed to be with Rosemary at the shop. It was late afternoon when Gabe and Rosemary headed to the shop. Gabe looks tired and annoyed, waiting for Rosemary to dress up. He decides to sit on the couch, trying to fight boredom. Suddenly, Rosemary went up to the platform, looking at herself in the mirror. She turned around, stunning in her purple dress. Without her knowledge, Gabe froze. His world stopped except for the graceful Rosemary twirling before him. She was so beautiful in his eyes. From the top 3, she's now the top 1 prettiest girl for him. Gabe tried to talk to her, but he stuttered instead. He felt something in his heart and butterflies in his stomach. Gabe was so confused about what he felt. He had already known Rosemary since kindergarten, but how come it was his first time to feel that unexplainable moment? Gabe remained bothered and stuttered from the shop until going to Rosemary's place. After they reached home, Gabe looked around the condominium to get to know Rosemary more. She is undeniably rich. The little girl has a younger adopted sister and a babysitter, Bertie, who takes care of them. Both her parents are drama actors, busy that they rarely stay at home. After putting down her things, Rosemary invited Gabe to practice karate in her room. The room was so pink that it bothered Gabe so much. Not only that, but it also smells like strawberries like Rosemary. After the strenuous karate tutorial, the two took a break on the apartment's balcony. There, Rosemary got curious about why Gabe wanted to learn karate. Gabe replied that it was because of Darryl Kitsons, a big boy, older to still be in 5th grade. He b***s all of them physically and emotionally at school. Darryl's strong body makes everyone afraid to meet him on the streets. Even Gabe himself takes another direction as he sees him around. To be strong like Darryl is what Gabe aspires for. Hearing that, Rosemary motivated Gabe to practice more. She's also willing to teach him all the way. Gabe, on the other hand, just stared at her with gladness. From there, everything about Rosemary was so attractive to Gabe. Despite all the plaques displayed in her room and the achievements of her parents, Rosemary remained down to earth. It was already late, so Gabe decided to go home. While playing video games, Leslie's boyfriend came to the house to pick her up for a date. Gabe again felt uncomfortable seeing his mom with a new lover. Meanwhile, Adam acted civil to Ronnie and supported what his ex-wife wanted. Since Gabe knew they were filing for divorce, he always cried even if his parents tried to explain to him their relationship status. But thanks to his scooter, Gabe can roam the 9-square block of the city as his playground. It's the only street in the city his parents allowed him to stroll. It served as his coping mechanism to forget about his separated parents. It's already almost a year after that, and Gabe can finally say he has already moved on. Speaking of moving on, Gabe can't seem to move on figuring out the unusual emotion he feels for Rosemary. As he roams around the city, Gabe frequently stops at 81st Street, where Rosemary lives. It's the least he could do because it's still summer break, and he has no contact with her. 3 days before karate class, Gabe still can't spot Rosemary in front of her building. Gabe looks for her surname in Manhattan's phone book to reach her. He found 2 telescopes enlisted there. However, it was the butcher man and an old man who answered his call. Because of that, Gabe's only chance is to loiter around Rosemary's condo building. He consistently visits there to the point that the doorman already knows him. One day, while at the facade of the building, Gabe finally saw Rosemary. She is with her babysitter, Bertie, and her sister. Gabe's heart beat fast, and he trembled with fear. Instead of approaching the lady, Gabe ran away with his scooter. He doesn't know what to do. He has no courage to greet Rosemary. A lot of thoughts were popping into Gabe's mind while running away. He just rode along the park, desperately wanting to get home. Little did he know, he was on the way heading to Rosemary. He almost bumped them with his scooter. Gabe was startled, he didn't see it coming. He wanted to escape, but Rosemary recognized him. Gabe stuttered as he tried to greet Rosemary and her angry babysitter. Gabe tried to be cool, but it didn't work. It was an awkward moment. Good thing that Rosemary broke the silence and invited Gabe to the park for her sister's birthday celebration. Gabe accepted it so he won't sound like he kept avoiding Rosemary when he actually was. At the party, the kids played with bubbles. Meanwhile, Gabe and Rosemary were just sitting on a big rock. Gabe is not trembling anymore. He calmly talks to Rosemary, not until the lady cutely raises her brows. Gabe just smiled, staring at her. His world goes slow as he realizes how pretty and smart Rosemary is. She fits Gabe's type for girls. Rosemary sets the standard of an ideal woman. Bubbles also went in Rosemary's direction, adding a romantic touch to the moment. After a little while, Gabe woke up from fantasizing. For the first time, he dared to invite her for ice cream. He had also asked permission from Bertie and told her that he'd pay for the ice cream himself. While having their ice cream, Gabe looked at Rosemary and noticed her standing far from him. The boy again overthought that he maybe smells awful. In his head, he was pressured because he felt that he had nothing to say to Rosemary. Regardless, Gabe tried to have a conversation with the lady. It was so awkward at first, but Gabe successfully pulled it off. He's already familiar with everything around Central Park. Because of that, he has a lot of things to share with Rosemary. Gabe felt that he was charming on their first date. While scheduling a day for their karate tutorial, Rosemary unintentionally said she'd transfer to a private school next year. Gabe felt lonely hearing that. However, Rosemary told Gabe that she'd fail the test so she won't get admitted to the academy. Gabe smiled, thinking the lady intended to fail the exam to see him still. After a little while, Bertie interrupted them and was so angry with Rosemary. She has been searching around for her. Before leaving, Rosemary told Gabe that they'd meet on Sunday afternoon at their house this time. The two bid goodbye. Gabe was left smiling from ear to ear. Gabe felt alive. He hopped to his scooter and felt like floating after having a date with Rosemary. At home, Gabe was so enthusiastic. He still had the energy left to do karate, copying his idol in the movie. After that, Gabe entered his mom's room and shyly told her that he needed a haircut. Leslie agreed and told her son that she'd cut it herself tomorrow. Gabe went nervous. Her mom has been cutting his hair since he was a kid but hasn't been able to master it. Gabe doesn't want to allow her mom to touch his hair with a terrible cut. He then told Leslie that he was reaching puberty and it was better to go to a barber shop. Leslie looked at Gabe and told the young man they didn't have money for that. Gabe immediately dashed to his father and pleaded. The next day, Gabe is at the old barber shop. He immediately requested his type of haircut. When Gabe saw the outcome in the mirror, he felt that the $12 he spent didn't go to waste. His confidence was boosted as he saw himself looking hot with his new haircut. Sunday afternoon came, the special karate practice he's been looking forward to. While in the mirror, Gabe looked crazy practicing how to greet Rosemary. After a little while, someone rang the bell, and it was the elevator guy, Ralph. Gabe and Ralph have been close since then. Ralph even teased him as Rosemary went out of the elevator. At Gabe's apartment, Leslie was shocked to see his son with a lady. Gabe introduced Rosemary to his mom, whom she still remembers in kindergarten. Leslie smiled and apologized that she couldn't prepare a snack for them, because she also had a date with Ronnie. There, Rosemary found out that Gabe's parents had already broken up. Meanwhile, Gabe didn't mind and was happy that he was with Rosemary. Leslie left the apartment, and Gabe immediately brought Rosemary to entertain her. Gabe went to his mom's computer and shared with Rosemary how her mother found Ronnie on a dating site. The two giggled as they scanned photos of other men in Manhattan, desperate to find a partner. After that, they practiced karate. Gabe showed his karate moves to Rosemary and imagined that he was Michael Chatterantibut, a famous martial artist. Gabe was finally on top of Rosemary and about to defeat her. There, Gabe thought of kissing her. Rosemary, on the other hand, was lying and smiling mysteriously at him. Gabe was lost in the moment that he didn't expect Rosemary to fight back. Now, Rosemary is on top of Gabe. In Gabe's mind, he's trying to tell the lady if she wants a kiss. However, out of nervousness, Gabe said if she wants a Gatorade. During their break, the two talked again about Gabe's divorced parents. Rosemary opened up that she could help look for an apartment for Gabe's dad. Rosemary's parents are fond of looking for apartments. Because of that, she knew what to look for in searching for a unit. They found a good one in the newspaper and decided to call its owner. Rosemary looked pretty in Gabe's eyes as she confidently negotiated on the phone. They have agreed to meet the next day at 3 p.m. to take an inside look at the apartment. Suddenly, the door opened. The two heard it and rattled to hide the newspapers behind Gabe's pillow. It's his dad, Adam, who just came in. Like Leslie's reaction, Adam was also surprised as he saw his son bringing a lady to his room. To break the ice, Gabe introduced Rosemary to him. It took seconds for Adam to answer back and greet the lady. Rosemary finally decides to go home. While waiting for the elevator, Gabe was happy knowing that he'll again be with Rosemary tomorrow. They seemed to be a boyfriend and girlfriend looking for an apartment, as Gabe imagined. At night, Rosemary requested her best friend to cover for her the next day, never to tell her parents where she was heading. Similarly, Gabe also asks his friend Max that he'll be going somewhere, and he doesn't want anyone to know. The two met at the subway. They never rode on the train without their parents, but Gabe told the lady he already did and led their journey. Gabe also brought his scooter and offered Rosemary a ride. The lady hopped in and embraced Gabe with her arms. Gabe had butterflies as he felt Rosemary's arms around him. At that moment, Gabe had confidence that he could lead the way to the apartment they were looking for. However, the two returned to the table where a crazy beggar sat. There, Rosemary giggled and offered to ask someone for direction. Gabe was left with the scooter, looking at beautiful Rosemary. Suddenly, the crazy man called Gabe's attention. He was asking if the lady was his girlfriend. Gabe answered yes without a second thought. He sounds like Rosemary is his property. The older man shared his love story, that he was also madly in love with a woman, but she broke his heart. He advises Gabe to run away from Rosemary before he experiences the same pain he feels. Gabe's mood changed, and he looked afraid. The two finally found the apartment. The owner even thought he was being pranked because young people showed up to check the unit. Regardless, the owner allowed them to get inside. It was so beautiful. Plus the factor that Gabe thinks that it's the most romantic date he's ever been to. He had never felt so much happiness before. The two wandered in New York City on Gabe's scooter and headed to the smallest park. It was already abandoned, so no one was there except them. Inside the park were beautiful flowers, but nothing was more pretty than Rosemary in Gabe's eyes. He starts at the lady, and Rosemary also looks at him. Suddenly, Darryl, the big bully in school, interrupted. He claims that the park is his territory. Gabe trembled. He knew how strong Darryl was. Gabe just hid behind Rosemary like a coward. Rosemary, on the other hand, kicked Darryl's private area. He was so hurt that he lay on the floor. There, Gabe had a chance also to showcase his karate moves. Together with Rosemary, Gabe defeated the most popular in school. The two ran away. Before leaving the park, Gabe kicked Darryl's bike. He and Rosemary rode on the scooter, trying to be as fast as they could despite the traffic. Meanwhile, Darryl still managed to get up and follow the two. However, he failed to do so because they disappeared out of nowhere. Darryl, for the first time, accepted a defeat. Gabe accompanied Rosemary until they reached their apartment. Rosemary had so much fun with their adventure and thanked Gabe for it. Gabe smiled, glad that the lady loved their date. He tried to kiss Rosemary but hesitated for the second time around. It was almost evening, so the two bid their goodbyes. Before Rosemary left, she told Gabe that she'd be gone for 6 weeks for camp. Hearing that, Gabe's smile disappeared. He felt like his energy went down. Gabe felt cowardly for not kissing Rosemary before camp. He regretted not kissing her. On his way home, Gabe planned to kiss Rosemary before her bus left the next day. Gabe finally reaches his apartment, looking upset. At the lobby, police officers were gathered as well as the elevator man, Ralph, who had spent the day looking for him. As he walks further, Gabe also sees his parents, who were worried. They thought he was missing, because his best friend failed to cover his secret errand and date with Rosemary. As a punishment, Gabe was not allowed to go out for 48 hours, with no phone and no television. Gabe's karate class is about to start, and he won't allow his parents to stop him from going there. With that, Gabe offered to wash all the dishes piled in the sink just to get out of the house and see the love of his life, Rosemary. On that similar night, Adam went into Gabe's room to talk to him about the incident. Adam was so worried about Gabe disappearing. The two had a heart-to-heart conversation where Gabe promised never to leave the house without asking his parents' permission. The two had teary eyes as Gabe asked his dad if he was moving out of the apartment. Adam didn't want to tell him, but he did. He said to Gabe that he'd be leaving soon with a crying voice. There, Adam opened up and said that he had already found an apartment for him with 2 bedrooms. Gabe also wants to start a life with his father. He also admitted that he went missing because he was searching for that apartment. Adam was touched and couldn't believe how Gabe matured instantly. Adam respectfully declined and told his son that the village location was too far. He wants to live just 3 blocks away from his mom so that they still get to bond and play rugby. Gabe smiled as his dad kissed him. Before Adam left, he asked about Rosemary and what was happening between them. Gabe was so defensive and told his dad that they were just sparring partners, nothing more. Gabe falls asleep. He had a dream that he was playing basketball with his friends. Gabe turned right and saw Rosemary sitting on the grass. She was so pretty in the purple flower girl dress she was wearing. Rosemary called Gabe's name, but the boy just stood holding his ball. After a while, Gabe was shocked as he saw his soul separating from him. It seems that it was making a move for Rosemary, unlike him. Gabe's soul hugged Rosemary. They hugged and floated in the air like magic. The next day, Gabe hurriedly ran to his karate class to finally pursue Rosemary. During the training, the coach decides to switch his students' sparring partners based on their height. As Gabe arrives, a taller guy and a new karate learner, Tim Staples, are partnered with Rosemary. Meanwhile, Gabe was paired with a boy, David Batanahu, his a similar height level. Gabe gets pissed off as he sees Tim talking to Rosemary. After the karate class, Gabe talked to Rosemary and asked how she felt being paired with Tim. Rosemary smiled and told Gabe that Tim was much better at karate than her. Rosemary also added that Tim wants to invite her to karate practice. Gabe felt jealous and terrified at the same time. Rosemary's schedule till she moves away for camp is also full. The lady declined to meet Gabe because of that but promised Gabe to call him. At home, Gabe waited for the phone to ring, but no Rosemary called. Gabe felt heartbroken. His life turned lonely, and he easily felt irritated. Regardless, he continued his life and played rugby with his dad. Something seems to be bothering Gabe, which his dad noticed. Gabe reasoned out that his leg hurt because of karate. Adam told his son to focus on the goal and to prioritize it as of the moment. Hearing that, Gabe was motivated to bounce back and said he didn't need a girl to be happy. At home, Gabe was busy playing video games. He pressed the control buttons hard and tried to be cool, like he was not suffering heartache. Suddenly, the phone rang. Gabe turned his head and looked at it. He felt excited and thought of Rosemary. His dad answered the call while Gabe waited patiently to hear the caller's voice. It wasn't Rosemary. Gabe felt lonely and upset. He continued playing the video game angrily. The phone rang again, but Gabe pretended to be deaf and not to hear it. Adam answered it again. It is Rosemary calling. Gabe threw his remote control and went to his room to accept the call. Gabe was seated on his desk chair, excited to hear Rosemary but pretended never to remember her promise to call him. Gabe doesn't want to say he's waiting for her to call. As he tries to deny that he misses Rosemary, Gabe's heart beat fast. It was beating loudly, and he felt nervous that Rosemary would hear it on the line. Rosemary, on the other hand, was just sitting calmly on her pink chair, asking Gabe if he's free tomorrow night. Rosemary has a ticket for a concert, and her parents permit her to invite anyone she wants to join them. Gabe enthusiastically replied that he's free. The call ended, and the two agreed to meet the next day. The next day, Gabe woke up early feeling alive. He smiled from ear to ear as he took a shower. He was so happy that Rosemary kept her promise to call him. Plus the fact that she also invited him to attend a concert with her parents. Gabe couldn't ask for more and looked forward to enjoying the rest of the day with Rosemary. Leslie and Adam noticed that Gabe had been acting the past few days very differently. And now, their confusion was answered when Gabe asked for their permission to go out with Rosemary. Gabe wears a coat and grooms himself in the mirror. Adam helped him with his hair. Gabe's mother teased his son never to follow his dad's romantic pieces of advice. The three laughed after like a family. Before Gabe leaves, his mother reminds him that if he's not home past 11 p.m., he should call them. The boy promised and enthusiastically headed out of their house. While heading down, the elevator man, Ralph, was surprised to see Gabe dressed formally. Gabe responded that he had a date with some girl. Ralph smiled as he knew the little boy was referring to the sweet girl, Rosemary. At the building's lobby, Rosemary and her parents picked up Gabe in a taxi. Rosemary's parents were wonderful and thanked Gabe for joining them that night. The four finally arrived at the event. A romantic song was played. Hearing its lyrics made Gabe motivated to make the first move: hold Rosemary's hand. Gabe doesn't want to be just a karate partner to Rosemary. With that, he looked at the lady's hand and moved his hand closer to hers. The two finally held hands. Rosemary did not pull hers nor react violently. She turned red instead. Rosemary didn't look eye to eye with Gabe and just smiled. After a bit, Rosemary moved her hand away. Gabe was left confused. He thought that Rosemary loved it. Rosemary, on the other hand, wiped the sweat off her hand and brought it back closer to Gabe. The two held hands again, where Gabe felt butterflies on his stomach, loving every second that night. The concert ended, and it was now time to go home. Rosemary's parents left the two to grab breakfast the next day. Rosemary talked to Gabe and sounded nervous. She invited Gabe to the wedding, where she would be the flower girl. Gabe stuttered and answered the lady that he would try his best to attend it. Silence filled the environment. The two felt awkward. Suddenly, Gabe kissed on Rosemary's lips. Gabe trembled after and was so nervous about how Rosemary will react. Rosemary, on the other hand, wiped her lips. She didn't react nor ask what the kiss was for. The lady finally bid goodbye and left Gabe. Gabe kept holding his lips and smiling from time to time. As he entered the elevator, he was so confused about how to respond to Ralph when he was asked how the night went. Gabe lies on his bed and keeps repeating the kissing scene in his mind. Gabe couldn't sleep. He was overthinking how Rosemary felt about the kiss. Did she like it, or would it be the reason for her to go away? Gabe felt mixed emotions, but more feeling lovesick. His stomach suddenly rumbled. Gabe hurriedly went to the toilet and vomited. The next day, Gabe went to his karate class 10 minutes early. There, he saw Tim, Rosemary's sparring partner. Tim is already a yellow belt holder, while Gabe's belt is only white. Seeing Tim practicing, Gabe had the urge to invite him for sparring. Gabe showcased his karate skills. He kicked Tim and punched him in the chest. Gabe was not contented. He jumped and kicked Tim, which threw him into the mirror. The mirror broke, and Tim was severely injured. Gabe defeated a yellow belt holder, but it was all in his imagination. Yes, Gabe just imagined that he won sparring against Tim, the guy he's jealous of. Karate class started, but no Rosemary showed up. Gabe felt sad and wasn't in the mood to train anymore. Gabe overthinks that maybe Rosemary hates him and doesn't want to see him anymore. A little while, Rosemary came. She looked at Gabe and gave him a mysterious smile. While sparring, Gabe saw Tim and Rosemary together and was so jealous. In his mind, he has to improve his karate skills. Determined, Gabe consistently kicked down his sparring partner, David. Gabe poured all his anger on David, beating him up at the training. While the coach was talking, the karate learners circled him. Gabe sits opposite Rosemary. The boy stared at Rosemary, trying to read her facial expression. Still confused about Rosemary's feelings, Gabe thought earning a yellow belt would help him get closer to her. Gabe had to spar with his coach. The boy was so motivated and showcased his karate skills. And guess what? He defeated his coach. The only thing left is breaking the wood through a punch. Gabe concentrated on the piece of wood before him. He closes his fist and prepares to punch the wood. And boom. The wood did not break, but Gabe's hand did. It was severely injured that Gabe screamed because of the pain. He glanced at Rosemary the last time before his eyes closed. Gabe woke up in the hospital. His parents, Adam and Leslie, picked him up and went home. At the apartment, Gabe waited for Rosemary to call. Gabe was about to give up waiting when the phone rang. Even with his injury, Gabe was snappy to grab the phone. Rosemary was on the line. She asked about Gabe's condition. The boy responded and assured the lady that he was fine. Gabe also asked about Rosemary's free time. He badly wants to be with her before she goes camping. Rosemary explained that she was not available until Sunday, the day she'll leave the city. Gabe felt upset about why Rosemary had no time for him. His jealousy towards Tim is noticeable as he teases Rosemary to him. Gabe is forced to think that Rosemary is in love with Tim and gets mad at her. Rosemary, on the other hand, was confused about why Gabe involved Tim in their conversation. The lady was also dismayed by Gabe's accusation that she liked Tim. Gabe continued talking and won't listen to Rosemary anymore. With his attitude, Rosemary was filled with anger and burst her emotion. The two quarreled and hated each other after banging their phones down. After their quarrel, Gabe went back to his senses. He cried like a baby, regretting that he got mad at Rosemary. Gabe's parents heard him and pitied the boy on his first heartbreak. His mother went into his room to comfort him. The next day, Gabe went out of the apartment, even if it was a rainy day. He spent the lonely day strolling the city with his scooter. He also never forgot to visit Rosemary's apartment. Gabe saw them about to leave. The boy turned around and went home like he didn't care anymore to Rosemary. Days pass and Gabe learns to move on without Rosemary in his life. He realizes that he has a family, health, and a career ahead of him. He doesn't need a woman in his life, Gabe thought. Adam saw his son thinking deeply. He knows that he is still having a hard time starting life again. With that, he invites him for ice cream. While peacefully eating ice cream, Gabe asked his father why girls act the way they are, and why love ends. As a divorcee, Adam froze at the question he heard from his son. Adam took time to answer and cleared his son's confusion by retelling his love story with Leslie. The man told the kid that he and his mom were in love back then. But as time went by, some things were left unsaid. They piled up until such time that they had no more things left to say anymore. Adam also regretted that. Adam left Gabe there to give him space to think alone. That day is also the wedding date, where Gabe imagines Rosemary looking beautiful as she walks down the aisle. He walked the streets looking confused. Around the city, Gabe sees random things where Rosemary's name is displayed in a message. Gabe tried to run and escape thinking about Rosemary, but he couldn't. Gabe recalled what his dad said, and he realized something. He also has things left unsaid to Rosemary. He hasn't confessed his feelings to her. Gabe became motivated. He instantly realizes that love goes the extra mile even if it hurts. Gabe runs to Central Park, where the wedding will be held. The wedding ceremony had already ended, but not the celebration. The guests danced when a romantic song was being played. There, Rosemary was just sitting at the dining table, lonely and seems to think about something deeply. Gabe, on the other hand, sneaked to the party and was able to enter. He finally saw Rosemary. He approached her. Rosemary also saw Gabe and went near him, looking like she missed him. At that moment, Gabe didn't want to let a second pass and confessed to the lady the words left unsaid for a long time. "I love you," Gabe said with courage. This time he doesn't care if Rosemary will love him back. All he wants is to let her know his feelings and to move on without regretting something. At the same time, Gabe can't hide that he still has this little hope that Rosemary will love him back. Rosemary was left silent. She didn't know how to respond to Gabe's confession. Rosemary told Gabe that she felt too young to be in love with him. Rosemary wholeheartedly thanked Gabe for coming. The lady also invited the boy to dance with her. Gabe agreed and went to the dance floor. They hugged and danced to romantic music. Gabe enjoyed the moment with Rosemary. There, he already accepted the reality that they have separate paths to take in life. At home, Gabe went lonely. It sinks into his mind that love ends. Gabe opened the refrigerator to drink. There were no labels of Leslie or Adam on the juice or other goods chilled there. Gabe called his parents because of that, but no one answered. He searched for them in the master's bedroom, and as he went nearer, Gabe heard the giggles of his mom and dad. The boy entered the room and was so amused by what he saw. Adam and Leslie looked so happy together. They had just talked about the honeymoon that made them laugh so much. Gabe was left silent. The scene was just so good before him. It was a long time since he saw his parents on good terms. He got used to the scene where quarrels echoed in the apartment. Gabe's parents reconciled, and they started to get sweeter again like they were back then. The little boy looked happy as they ate in a fast food diner and bonded like a family. Meanwhile, Gabe may not have ended up with Rosemary, but the moments they shared are memorable enough that no other romantic relationship in the future will ever defeat her. As the saying goes, first love never dies, and Gabe finally accepts that there are people he meets who may not remain in his life, but will forever stay in